And welcome to the NFL Playoff Divisional Round Sports Betting Picks video here at FTN Bets. We are in the second round of the NFL playoffs after a very interesting wild card weekend that I was very happy with. Things worked out pretty much the way that we talked about them last week. And as we do all the time, we're going to take a look at all of the games this weekend. We're going to take a look at my number. We're going to take a look at the numbers from both DraftKings Sportsbook and BetMGM to kind of see if there's any value out there, where we can find some of that value, and where we want to get our money down early in the week before those lines move. To help through this video, I have my partner in crime, my producer, my boy, Steven Tino Rodriguez. What's up, my dude?
Uh, it went really well for us. I was rooting for your Bucks minus
Mhm.
20 and a half and minus 27 and a half. I couldn't get there. At least not both of them. But there was a chance. I was texting you. I was like, it's alive. It's very much alive.
Mhm.
I shouldn't have doubted you in terms of the Eagles, but everything else was pretty much where we were. I think the closest one that was kind of a bad beat, but by a hook, we got the early number on the Raiders plus 6.5.
Mhm.
They lose by 7. They had a chance at the end of the game there. So, what are you going to do? But I ended up moving from, on the opening lines video. Make sure you check out also the Friday video over at the FTN Network. I know that won't air on Game Plus Network, but I was heavy on the Patriots on Monday. And come Friday, I flip flopped entirely. Granted, Stephon Diggs didn't score, but I was like, 4 is not enough. The Bills got this. And 4 was not enough. So,
Mhm.
yeah, pretty well on both sides, other than the touchdown scores, which could be better. I think our
Yep.
game picks were right on point.
Yeah, it was. It was an interesting week, right? We had five of the six favorites wound up winning and covering this week. The only one who didn't was the Dallas Cowboys, and we said that that was the game that everybody was kind of looking at as the.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to call it an upset, but the quote unquote upset of the week right there. San Francisco winning that game at plus money. And a lot of these games weren't even close, right? Like it wasn't even in doubt. You had Buffalo
yeah,
win by a ton. You had, Tampa Bay was up like five scores before they gave up a couple late scores. Still wound up winning by more than two touchdowns. I did cash the 13 and a half on that game though. So
nice.
we'll take that one. At least I got some of the money back for the other ones we lost. The Kansas City game turned into a blowout. It's you had basically two good games all weekend, right? The first one was Cincinnati game was pretty good there. And then the San Francisco and Dallas game was pretty good. The other four games, they were all blowouts. We had two games go over. The Kansas City game went over. The Buffalo game went over. The other four games went under. Another theme that we have seen pretty much throughout the season. For the season, 55% of the games that were played went to the under. So if you just flat bet it at a standard minus 110 juice, it was profitable to just bet unders all season. 44% of games went over. So if you did that on overs, you probably lost a lot of money. And the way everything turned out this week, it was pretty much the same way that it's been all season long. It made sense to bet on favorites. Favorites wound up paying us some money. Made sense to bet on unders. Unders wound up paying us some money. I don't know if that's going to keep going on in the playoffs here because we've gotten rid of all the bad teams now. Now
hmm
it's just good teams taking on good teams, and you really got to kind of see how that all works out. And we're going to tell you how it all should work
Yep.
out as we take a look at some of these games here. So, do you want to get started? We got two Saturday games this week, two Sunday games this week. We'll go through them all. We'll look at the numbers. I'll give you my numbers. We'll talk about it a little bit, and we'll see if we can find some value here. What do you think?
I will get us going. Yeah, I'm excited to get started. I did want to note, though, not only did those two overs get hit by the teams respectively by themselves, and the Chiefs and the Bills, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the Bills crushed it. I think it was at like 43, and then they scored like a
Mm-hmm.
48 piece. They almost put up a 50 burger. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. And this is actually a game I'm really, really excited to talk about because as a team, we have a little bit of a futures on. Not entirely. I didn't bet them to go the distance, but to survive and advance the first round, and I got them to, advance to the Super Bowl in the conference. That's the Cincinnati Bengals here, and they will be going up against, heading to Nashville, Tennessee here, and they'll be going against the one seed, arguably the one seed in the Tennessee Titans, which it appears Derrick Henry will be coming back. All
Mm-hmm.
signs are pointing to that. So this will be more of the Titans team that we saw earlier this season than later in the season, which was kind of, sluggish on offense. They get their thumper back. The line's at 3.5. Past the hook here. I'm actually interested to see where your line is because I'm trying to figure out how to play this. I think there's value in getting the hook in what could be a close game. The Bengals, looking at last week, infamously, they play close games, so that might be the safer way to play it. but I love taking the money line. So I'm just curious, where is your line at, and is there value on that hook?
Yeah, there is value on the hook. That's actually where the value is. So my line came in a little bit under 3 points for Tennessee. If
Mm.
again, if you round it up, you get Tennessee -3. So that means that there's value on Cincinnati at +3.5 with you getting the hook on this game right here. I really think what this game's going to come down to, when I run my numbers, there's a bunch of things that I look at, right? Like it's obviously like how a team does. It's not just here's their offense, here's their defense. It's pass offense, pass defense, pass blocking, pass rush, rush defense, rush, offensive line, like rushing, numbers and stuff like that. That's how all my numbers come together and everything here. So once I run the number, what I try to do is I try to look at, okay, well, why is this coming out as a -2.75 for Tennessee? Or it was like -2.9, I think is the number that it actually came out to with everything. And really what it came down to, I think, is the Bengals' run defense is one of the weakest parts of their team. They're like a bottom 10 rush defense in my numbers here. And then with Tennessee, with Derrick Henry, is one of the top rushing attacks in the league. And that's the reason why I have Tennessee favored by, like I said, just a little bit under -3 here in this game. To me, that is the key to this game right here is can Cincinnati figure out a way to stop and or slow down Derrick Henry, assuming Derrick Henry is back to, the Derrick Henry that he was before everything happened here. I think that's going to wind up being the key to this game right here. Because if you're looking at the way to attack Cincinnati, if you can run the ball on Cincinnati and you can control the clock, you can keep Joe Burrow and that, high-powered offense off the field, you're going to have a really good chance to win that game. And I think that's what Tennessee's going to have to do to win this game. Now, when it comes to betting, maybe I'm betting a little more with my heart here. But like I said, if my number is under 3 and I could get 3.5 on the Bengals, I have a slight lean to the Bengals here. I think the Bengals +3.5 is the way that I want to play this game. What are you looking at here? Do you think I'm crazy? And kind of what are your thoughts on this one?
Muted, so that's great. I'm worried about injuries. That's the biggest thing, and you'll see it kind of through the first round because a lot of people are looking to the 49ers game, and everyone's talking about the Fred Warner and these the Nick Bosa injuries, and these are like huge names that everyone kind of knows. The Bengals' big names on defense are hurt, and their offensive line is already kind of dinged up. So I just wanted to touch on the fact that Hendrickson, one of their best defensive ends. I just wanted to pull up this stat here that I have from SI.com. And basically, it says they had a pressure rate of 43.5% when he was on the field against the Raiders. The second he left after his concussion, 9%. I mean, drastic, right? And
That's bad.
yeah,
That's
it's
very
huge.
bad.
Now, they still have Sam Hubbard, which helps, and he was able to do some things when Hendrickson wasn't in the game. But Hendrickson did have a sack. He had a strip fumble and made an impact. So I think for the Bengals, the underestimated part of this team, and we talked about it last week, is their defense. No one gives them credit. You just assume they're just not that good of a defense. And I'm not saying they're world beaters by any means, but they have pieces on there that make things difficult. And the Titans have struggled up front to protect Ryan Tannehill at times. Now, with that said, they control the line of scrimmage by just thumping you with Derrick Henry and changing the pace with their big-time receivers, and they have something there. I'm really worried more about the defense of the Bengals than anything right now because that's what I actually felt higher on about this team than anything because I still think Chase is going to do his thing. I think Burrow and Jace showed it. I mean, he didn't score. Another guy I was on, him and Diggs both had gigantic games. Neither fell in the end zone, but I was there. We liked the process. We didn't get the result, but it's all right. I still think that's going to be the answer for the Bengals. I think it's going to be a heavy dose of passing. Nothing's going to really change there, but if the Bengals not only can't slow the run game down, but can't get pressure on Ryan Tannehill, we've seen it before. Tannehill, if he has time, can do things with his legs, is accurate enough as a passer that, he could pick apart this Bengals D. So I'm kind of worried about that. I'm riding with the Bengals still because it's concussion. He has to pass protocol, so we don't know anything until later. So check out the Friday show and see if maybe we get some line movement or just where we're kind of feeling it and see if any other injuries pop up. But I think that's the biggest thing to know. I want to take the value on the 3.5. I think the Bengals can still keep this a field goal game either way because they've just notoriously played in close games most of this year. And, other than a few letdown spots, have been competitive throughout. I'm just worried about their defense. I'm worried about their defense a little bit, and if they can't, everyone wants to look at Derrick Henry, which is fine, but if you don't think the Titans are going to somehow deploy Derrick Henry as maybe a little bit of a decoy at times to set up play action on some deep passes down the field for now a healthy A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, I think, you're looking at this the wrong way because the receiver core for the Titans also got healthy at the end of the season here. That everyone, we clown Julio Jones, but Julio Jones is Julio Jones. So, they got two receivers that if Derrick Henry can help set up that play action, they'll be in a really good spot to, to defeat the Bengals. But I'm rooting for them. I am betting with my heart a little bit, but I'm also invested. We're also invested. So.
Well, that is true. I mean, we talked about the Bengals being a good long shot play last week if you're looking for like a Super Bowl winner or AFC winner. And this is exactly what we expected, right? They got through the first game. They got through the Raiders. Now they play against a Tennessee team that, they have a chance to beat here. And if they have a chance to beat them, now you have a team that's sitting at 18-1 to win the Super Bowl or whatever they were, 8-1 or 9-1 to win the AFC going into the AFC Championship game if they can get through this week. But you mentioned it. I mentioned it already. The numbers that we looked at said it. The big thing we have to look at here for the Cincinnati Bengals is how that defense is going to do. I don't think anybody thinks their offense is going to struggle. I think their offense will be fine. They'll put up some points. But really where they're going to win this game is they have to slow down and stop the Tennessee Titans. If they cannot stop the Titans, especially on the run, then they're going to have trouble in this game. The Titans are going to wind up coming away with the victory. Like I said, my number is a little bit below 3 here at 3.5. I think there's a slight lean to the Cincinnati side. Is it a big lean? No. Do I think that we're going to get a ton of movement in this line? Probably not. I think 3.5 is about where it's going to be when a game kicks off on Saturday as well. But I do think that if you had to pick a side right now, give me the Bengals with the hook plus 3.5. That's the way I'm going. Yep. Let's go on. Let's talk about the next game here.
I also did want to note that Josh Jacobs averaged 6.4 yards a carry last week in limited usage. That was a big factor for the Raiders hanging in that game is Josh Jacobs' usage. So I actually don't love the matchup as much as I did last week for the Bengals just because of Derrick Henry. But who would love a matchup against Derrick Henry? Not many people. So, yeah, let's move on. And this is a matchup, though, that I do think is worse off than a lot of people anticipated. I don't know if they expected this to be the matchup, but this is flashbacks to maybe 2-3 years ago when there was a shellacking in prime time here, and it's the 49ers versus the Green Bay Packers. Like we said, I guess the chalkiest underdog pick would have been the 49ers, and they're going to go on the road here into cold Green Bay, leaving the West Coast to the East Coast, I guess kind of more of Midwest, and take on the Green Bay Packers in frigid temperatures. 6-point spread is what I'm reading from the DraftKings Sportsbook, 5.5 over at BetMGM. Benny, I want to know your line because not much has changed in my perspective from a few years ago. I don't want to say it's recency bias or anything like that. It's just the Green Bay's MO from the entirety of Aaron Rodgers' career, especially in Green Bay, is if you go in there and run the ball, you have a chance at beating them. And I think at least covering this, I'll get to your line. I love the 6. I think this game's going to be close because the 49ers, when Mostert ran for 200 yards in like a half a couple years ago, kind of put out the book on how to beat these guys, and they handled them. I think if they can get Mitchell and Debo going, we have a ball game here. I thought this is the Packers' year. Everyone said Packers, Chiefs, Packers, Chiefs, Packers, Chiefs. This is going to be a tougher sledding game for the Green Bay Packers than I think a lot of people anticipated early into the postseason.
Yeah, well, I am 100% on board with you here. I think the +6 on DraftKings for San Francisco is the way to go here. So when I ran the numbers with everything here, I got that Green Bay should be favored, as they are, but I got the number of 4.5. So I think +6 is a little bit too much here. I think we got about 1.5 of value with San Francisco here. And here's the deal. I mean, we talked about it last week. San Francisco played in the toughest division in football, in my opinion. They had a lot of tough games here. When I look at the numbers for San Francisco, and I mentioned this before last week's show as well, I had that San Francisco should have probably finished the season 2.5 to 3 wins better than they did finish the season. They just had a really tough schedule that they had to roll through there. But this is a team that has a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense based on my rankings. So, the offense is able to move the ball, especially on the ground, especially with Kittle back there to give them that extra blocker because he is such a good blocker there. It's like having a 6th offensive lineman. They have a lot of good concepts in their run game. They're running the east and west stuff with the wide receivers. They're running north and south with Elijah Mitchell, who's been looking really good when he's healthy and he's in there. I just don't think that Green Bay deserves to be favored by almost a touchdown in this game. I mean, 6 points is a lot of points here. So I think that the value is San Francisco +6, DraftKings with the full +6, better than taking the +5.5. On BetMGM, they're both at -110 standard juice. So that's the way that I'm looking at this game right here. The one thing that gives me a little bit of pause, though, and I made a little bit of an adjustment for it, maybe the books are making a bigger adjustment than I did, and you mentioned it in the opener, is guys like Bosa and Warner on the San
Yeah.
Francisco defense not playing here. Those are big time players that need to be in this game because it is hard enough to stop Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay offense when you're at full strength 100%. If you're not getting the pass rush that you need there, if you're not able to make those tackles that those two guys make the plays in the running game and also in the passing game, I mean, we saw it a little bit towards the end of the Dallas game after those guys kind of went out, where the defense started looking a little bit more shaky right there. Green Bay, to me, is a team that will take advantage of these guys not being in. So I'm a little worried if those guys don't play. Hopefully, those guys will be out there because you do have to get some pressure on Aaron Rodgers. You can't just let Aaron Rodgers stand back in the pocket and pick you apart because if you do, he will. And then you're going to wind up losing that game. So I am on the San Francisco +6 side of it. I do not want to touch the money line. I do think Green Bay wins this game. I just think +6 is a few too many points. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is, and I don't want to just roll back to it, but a lot of the teams a lot of the same from that matchup. From 2 years ago in 2020, they played in San Francisco for the NFC Championship game, and it
Yep.
looked a lot closer, but it was pretty much a dog walk. Like I said, Garoppolo only threw the ball 8 times in that game. Mostert had 4 touchdowns on
Mm-hmm.
29 carries. Debo, Kittle are still there. The defense, I mean, that was Nick Bosa's first season. He had a sack in that game. He had a tackle for loss. A lot of things mirror each other. I mean, DeForest Buckner is gone, but these teams are a lot of the same, and the Packers haven't changed in years. So they had Jones. Devontae Adams had a good game. Aaron Rodgers threw the ball nearly 40 times. He got picked off twice,
Mm-hmm.
which was a huge factor in that. I think the other thing is, too, though, that's in San Francisco. This game will be in Green Bay. I also think you got to contribute something to that. And I've said this to you forever, and it's funny how the tables have turned because we rode the Packers to cover the spread, and they were phenomenal against the spread all year. That was our team. When Aaron Rodgers was there, we bet them. We didn't think twice. It was super profitable. They got to run the ball. They got to run the ball. I know it's super easy to attack this 49ers passing attack, and that's fine, but you saw the Cowboys struggle last week. They couldn't get anything on the ground at all. It put it all in the hands of Dak Prescott, and I'm not comparing Dak to Aaron Rodgers. It just makes a quarterback's life a lot harder, especially with a good pass rush with San Francisco, if you have no existent running game and you just try to throw the ball 40 times just point blank. It's one thing to say you're going to do it. It's another thing to just, pony up, give the ball to A.J. Dillon a little bit and let him bang. I've told you this even in our preview stuff that I think A.J. Dillon is a big difference in this Packers team from years past. That I know they had Jamal Williams, but no one's going to want to tackle A.J. Dillon in the frigid cold weather in Green Bay this weekend. And I think if they're smart, they get work for A.J. Dillon, and I think that's something that could end up, separating them in this game and maybe ultimately getting them a win. I do want to take the 49ers to at least cover. I know we got them at 25-1 to win the Super Bowl last week. That was our, we're taking an NFC West team, as our long shot favorites here to win the thing. So I'm rooting for them at 25-1, but I do think the Packers still have a really good shot to win this. They just got to not put the ball all in Aaron Rodgers' hands. We've seen it too many times before. I know it's crazy. It sounds crazy, right? I sound crazy now. Oh, let's not rely on Aaron Rodgers. It's the playoffs. Don't make the guy work so hard, They have pass rushers. You got to take the pressure off him by running the ball. I think that's an underlining key to this game here. Also,
Yeah, and
Fred
we
Warner
have
is
seen
going to
these two
play, by
teams
the way.
play.
I didn't want to cut
Oh,
you off, but Fred Warner said to him, he came out and said on Twitter he's going to play. It's a low
all
ankle
right,
sprain.
good.
It seems like he's going to play. Just before I forget.
That's good. That's good to hear. I did want to just mention these two teams did play once already this year. They played in Week 3. The game was in San Francisco. Green Bay won that game 30-28. So it was a close game there. This one's going to be in Green Bay, so we're moving it over to a new venue for this side. So we'll see how much that changes things. Again, usually about 1.5 is what I do for home field advantage. So taking it off there and putting it over there, about a 3-point swing. It was a 2-point game the first time. Comes out to -5. still below the +6 that's being offered there on San Francisco. So there you go. We are going to take a quick commercial break right here, and we'll be back to talk about the Sunday games on the NFL Playoff Divisional Round Sports Betting Pick video here at FTN Bet. And welcome back to the NFL Playoff Divisional Round Sports Betting Picks video here at FTN Bets. We have two more Sunday games to talk to. So, Tino, start us off. Let us know which one you want me to start talking about, and I'll give you my number.
Well, let's start with the game that's on the slate first here, and it's a game I'm torn on. So I want to hear your take on it before I give anything out. And it's a line that's the same on both sports books as the people at home could see right here. Rams +3 at both BetMGM and DraftKings. They're traveling to Tampa Bay. The Bucs have lost one game at home all year. The Rams have lost two games on the road all year. They beat the Bucs earlier this year in Los Angeles. In a game they kind of handled. I want to root for the Rams, but what's the smart thing to do? What does your number say? Is there any edge in this?
I don't really have an edge in this game. When I ran the number on it, I got exactly Tampa Bay -3. So I guess there's a slight lean to the Rams here because they're juiced up a little bit. Or actually, I'm sorry, a slight lean to Tampa Bay because they're juiced down a little bit at -105. But really, I mean, my number's -3. The number's -3 on both of the books. I'm pretty much on market. I got nothing here. If you got a lean, by all means, let's hear it. Because for me, I think this is going to be a great football game. If you're asking me to pick one of these two teams, I'll take the Rams +3. But honestly, I have no value here. I have no lean here.
I would just take Rams money line if you're going to go +3, and maybe that's a silly way of looking at it. I just think if the Rams are going to win this, it's going to be a lot like the last time. Cam Akers looks like he could be a difference maker for this team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to overblow it, but he was dramatic, his impact last night. And Aaron Donald is determined to get back to the Super Bowl. He's ripping helmets off and putting people in sleeper holds yesterday, taking 15-yard penalties when he had no business. His team was up like 28 points. The Bucs line, I'll just leave on this. The Bucs line was really, really banged up from that last game. So there are other injury reports we got to watch on that as well. I know it's kind of boring talk, but all this stuff matters. I know they were dropping like flies. They probably didn't need to keep him out there for the Eagles. They were going to win that game anyway. So I don't know how significant it is. Just follow those injury reports. We'll talk more about it on Friday on our show. But I think that's also where the X factor is. That Bucs offensive line.
100% agree with you here. Injuries are the big thing that has me leaning the Rams if I had to take something here. Basically, you look at the first time they played, the Rams won the first time, and Tampa Bay was a lot healthier. Their line was healthier. They had a lot more of the weapons that they don't have this week. I just think you're getting a Tampa Bay team that's not as good as they were earlier in the season, facing a Rams team that, Von Miller addition, Odell Beckham played really well. Cam Akers is back. I feel like the Rams are a better team now than they were then, and Tampa Bay's not as good a team there. Like I said, my number is -3. I'm right on market, but I do think the Rams are better, and that's the way I'm looking at it here. So let's go on and talk about that last game here. Go ahead and set me up for it.
Yeah, let's talk about it because it's in no man's land, and this is another game that if you want to bet the dog, you're going money line, in my opinion here. And it's going to be hard to not root for them because they seem determined, man. The Buffalo Bills here, +2.5 on both sides, +115 on the money line at BetMGM, +110 over at DraftKings. Rematch from last year, rematch from earlier this season. They split those two games. The Chiefs won when it mattered more last year in the postseason, but the Bills handled them earlier this year. I'm just excited to watch this game.
I don't really have a dog in the fight. It'll be the last game. I think it's going to be the most interesting game and the one you want to literally kick your feet up and eat some popcorn for because I think there's going to be a ton of points. If I have a play, it's the over. This is what I'm going to bet.
Well, these were the two teams that did play to the over in their games last week. So, yeah, I think the over is a way that we can look at this game. When we're looking at how it's going to turn out, though, I have Kansas City -4 here. So we're getting Kansas City currently, I think, on both sites at -2.5 is the number that's out there in the market. So that's the number that I would take. I mean, you're getting Kansas City under a field goal here. I think Kansas City under a field goal is the way to go. So I like Kansas City. I will lay the -2.5. Like I said, my number is -4 on this game here. So I think that's where the value is. I think this game is going to be back and forth. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring here. I think it's going to be a very exciting and interesting game to watch. But at the end of the day, I mean, listen, the value is on the Kansas City side. So I'm going to be on the Chiefs. I'll lay the -2.5. That's the way I'm going with it. What are you looking at?
Yeah, man, I want to root for the Bills. Stephon Diggs is scoring this week. He let me down last week. He's scoring this week. I just think there's going to be a ton of points. I want to see Josh Allen take that next step, but the Chiefs are getting healthy, man. Tyreek Hill finally scored a touchdown. He looks healthy. Mm-hmm. It's hard to bet against the Chiefs. They're terrible against the spread. They covered last week by 1,000. Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the Chiefs and the over as of right now. I bet it this morning on something very small, but like I'm torn. I want to be a fan of these teams. You know, the suffering. I rooted for the Bengals because they hadn't won since 1991. I want to see the Bills in a Super Bowl, man. If they beat the Chiefs, they have a really good chance. I'll put it that way. If they beat the Chiefs, they have a good chance.
I'm a little older than you, so I've seen the Bills in 4 straight Super Bowls, and it's not fun. Sorry, Buffalo fans. It's one fan base I do not want to hate me right now, but you know, I have actually seen Buffalo play in quite a few Super Bowls, and it hasn't worked out all that well for them. Remember, these two teams did play in Week 5. Buffalo won that game. It was at Kansas City, where they're going back here today, so they do know that they can play with them there. I just think this Kansas City team now is a lot better than that Kansas City team was at the beginning of the year. I think their defense is better. I think their offense is humming. I think the offense is clicking. You know, the offensive line is playing a lot better. They're actually a pretty good run blocking offensive line, and you can run against Buffalo's defense. So I wouldn't be shocked to see, I don't know, maybe Jerick McKinnon have a big game here. He looked really, really good last week. Had so many shares of him in best ball this year that wound up being absolutely nothing. Of course, he would go on in the playoffs where I have no playoff shares of him and go ahead and have a big game right there. But, you know, it is what it is right there. Like I said, though, I mean, I think Kansas City is the side you want to be on in this game. I don't think 2.5 is enough points. You're getting the field goal on your side. My number's -4. I got about 1.5 of value here. I don't even mind taking the Kansas City money line if you want to parlay that together with some people. And remember, if you guys are looking for some other, you know, prop bets or some higher leverage bets, we will be back on Friday bringing you our prop betting show, Betting with Benny and Tino, where we go over some of the prop bets and everything else. So definitely make sure to check that out. Tino, anything else you want to add here before we sign off for the people?
Good luck. I mean, I'll tell you that Friday again. Good luck. And watch the lines. I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement, but I mean, we saw with the Bengals Raiders last week. It went down, then it went back up again towards the game time. Pay attention to the injury reports throughout the week. See some edges, and you know, there's no shame in liking a team early on Monday and switching to the other team come Friday. Just make sure you do it in time for the games. And I'm just glad I got in on the Bills at the right time, right? So that's the best thing I could say. Trust those early judgments, but also use the information in front of you to, you know, to make the best bet possible. And check out FTN Bets, check the bet tracker, see what we're on, see what we decide to do, and what our leans are, you know, throughout the week, because I'm sure there are going to be some, there'll be some picks trickling in throughout the week. I don't know if everyone will get them in early. I think we're all waiting for some injury reports to come out as well, but definitely check out FTN Bets.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, if there's any line that's going to move this week, it's going to be San Francisco and Green Bay. I think the other 3 games are going to stay within half a point of where they are now at most, and honestly, I don't see any of them moving right here. So for Tino, this is Benny signing off for the NFL Playoffs Divisional Round sports betting pick video, which is an absolute mouthful to say, here at FTN Bets and available on the Game Plus Network. Good luck this week, everybody.